All right, we're going to get started this morning. My name is Michael Paul. I'm one of the counselors at Wayne Valley High School. With me also is Mrs. Feinberg. We have a great presentation that we've already given to all the students at Wayne Valley High School. The presentation that we have for parents is almost identical. We will be recording it so that we make it available to anyone that is unable to attend. So I'm going to share my screen. We'll answer questions in the chat as we go along. If it's a question that's broad-based and would answer a lot of other questions, we'll answer it live. Otherwise, we'll just answer it within the chat.
Okay, so as we've already discussed with students, they will put in their elective requests on Course Connect for any 10th or 11th grade students who have been in the district previously. They've done this before, so it's the same process it's been in previous years. For any students who are currently in 9th grade or who are new to the district, this is something that we did walk through with them in their history classes. We went through the process and they had the opportunity at that time to put in their requests. So they should be familiar with how to do this. If they aren't, they're more than welcome to meet with us or their counselor, their assigned counselor, so that we can go through that process with them. But basically, even when they do that, regardless of when they add the requests, we'll still be meeting individually with all of our students in the coming months. So it's just helpful for them to have the electives already added, just so that they are already prepared with what they want to do for next year. That we do have the program of studies under our student programs tab on the Wayne Valley website. So it is the one from last year. The one for this year is currently being updated, but the one from last year is very similar. So refer to that one for now until the new one is up. But that has a list of all the classes that are available to students, a class description for every class that's offered, as well as any prerequisites and what grade level you need to be in. So that is a very good resource on options for students. In terms of leveling requirements, or leveling recommendations for students in core classes, such as your math, English, history, science classes, those are recommendations that the classroom teacher puts in. So if a student or a parent or guardian has a question about why a student is in a certain level, or if the student wants to move up or down a level for next year, that's a conversation that should be had with their classroom teacher for this year. So if a student comes to us and hasn't already talked to their teacher, we will ask them to do that before we make any changes. And finally, the deadline to put in those requests is Monday, January 29th, so next week. After that, we will start the process of meeting with students.
So the high school graduation requirements are the same from last year as they continue. The 4 years of PE and health, 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 3 years of lab science, 2 years of U.S. history, 1 year of world, 2 years of world language, and then one course in each of the areas, a full year for visual performing arts, career education, consumer, family, and life skills, humanities, and the 2.5 credit financial literacy requirement. The counselors work obviously with students to ensure that they are fulfilling their graduation requirements while they're in high school. They need a whole total of 135 credits in order to graduate. These are those elective areas that were on that previous slide that we look to obviously cover as soon as we can while they're here, in the attempt to fulfill the requirements so that when they're upperclassmen and the new coursework is added every year, every other year, we have new classes, new offerings. If a student is forced to choose between a course that they need that fulfills an area of content that they are required to fulfill over a course that they are interested in taking, they're sort of put in that position where they have to make that choice and choose potentially something that is not something they're particularly interested in, but they need to fulfill an area. We work with students every year to ensure that they are fulfilling their requirements. There are sections or there are areas where a course may cover more than one area. As an example, all our courses are visual performing arts, but also humanities, also art electives is also within that content area. There you cannot double dip. So if you took, say, visual performing arts, you took the introduction art course, that first year could be used to fulfill the visual performing. And then if they took a second art course, that they could use that to fulfill the humanities. So we work with students to ensure they're fulfilling their requirements, but also that they're choosing coursework that they may be interested in and may potentially want to pursue beyond high school. Language arts track.
Sure. So there are the core English classes that students will take. So this is one of the requirements that students have to take 4 years of. So all students will take English 9, 10, 11, and 12. For the first 3 years, there's general, enriched, and honors. For that last year, instead of honors, it's an AP option. So again, that's the leveling will be determined by the student's teacher. So if you have questions about a student or your child's level for next year, definitely reach out to the classroom teacher. On the right-hand side here, we also have electives that fall under this category. So again, any of these electives would fulfill that humanities elective requirement that students have to hit. For history, students will take world history as a freshman, and then US History 1 and US History 2 in the next 2 years. So again, you can see the leveling on top, same thing here. If a student wants to move up or down a level, then we definitely recommend talking to the teacher first. And again, on the bottom, we have those elective options that are under the social studies umbrella. There are quite a few options in this area, so students definitely have a lot of choices here. Quite a few full year classes, a bunch of half year classes. Something really quick to note with the half year classes is if a student is requesting half year courses, we definitely want them to list alternatives. We want alternates for any elective, but especially the half year ones, because there's no promise that certain half year classes will run at the same time. So a student might request, say, psychology and legal studies to go together. They might not even end up running at the same period. So we would want a student to put in an alternate just so that we could still put them into a class that they would ideally want to be in. For world language, so we offer Spanish, French, and Italian. We offer 5 years of each. So if a student started a language in 8th grade, they could go up to level 5 in their language. It's not required. Students have to take 2 years of a world language, like we were saying. We recommend that students do 2 consecutive years of the same language. And then if a student decides to take a 3rd year of a world language, it would count towards their humanities requirement. Additionally, something that we recommend to students is if they are intending to go to college after high school, we recommend double checking on if the schools that they're interested in have any requirements for languages. Some schools will look for more than 2 years of a language in high school. So in that case, it would be beneficial, of course, for the student to continue with their language. On the other hand, if a student really struggles in a language and that's their weak subject area, it would be beneficial for them to look at an area where they would excel more than a language potentially. And that's even a conversation that we could have individually with the student and with their parent or guardian.
It's also important to note that Spanish is the only language that is leveled. So there are 3 separate levels for the Spanish content area, Spanish 1, 2, and 3. Whereas French and Italian are both, they start out at enriched as the first year for the language. If they take more than the 2 years, that 3rd year can be used to fulfill their humanities requirement. The mathematics track is as follows. The bulk of our students will attend as a freshman, having had Algebra 1 and then Geometry Algebra 2. That 3rd year being their senior year, there are 3 potentially, if they're on the general track, of courses to take. We absolutely recommend that if they are a college-bound student, whether that's 2-year, 4-year, trade school, any type of post-secondary educational program, the likelihood that they will need to take some sort of entrance test or exam is most often the case. And taking a year off of math potentially could not bode well for a student that is taking a placement test at the next level. And it could certainly, having that year off of math, they could potentially not do well on that section of a college entrance exam. The unified track is obviously as followed. And teachers will look to make those recommendations or for a student to continue on within the math track. But students don't have to take that fourth year if they do not enjoy that content area, or if they feel as though they might not need that at the next level. But as Mrs. Feinberg did mention, there are ways for students to check, making their schedule as a junior going into their senior year. There are ways for them to check to determine if taking that fourth year math would absolutely be required or, beneficial in them finding acceptance at the college level. Some mathematics and computer science electives listed here as well. The mathematics electives do not cover any of the elective areas, but the computer science do. So be mindful of that.
For business electives, so this is the one requirement where it's a little bit different. So all of the other elective requirements that we mentioned at the beginning, a student is required to do a full year of those electives, so 5 full credits. For the business elective, students are required only to do 2.5 credits. So if a student does financial literacy during their freshman year, that's that half-year business class, they are done with that business requirement and they don't have to do it anymore. Of course, if a student does a full year class, it also counts towards the business elective. But any of these classes listed would go towards that requirement. And of course, if a student is interested in going into business, we do have quite a few options for them to take. And so this is a really strong area where students have the opportunity to take quite a few classes that could benefit them in college. The technology electives, so some of these are a little bit structured a little bit differently than some of the other classes. So you'll see at the top the auto classes that we offer. Some of the advanced level options are 10 credits, which means that if a student chooses to take one of those, it takes up 2 spots on their schedule, which we always tell students it's totally fine. We're going to, of course, make sure that they're on track with their other requirements to make sure they're not falling behind on those. But if a student is interested in the auto program and potentially wants to go into that type of field in the future, these are really good options for them to take. Most of the other classes that you see, with the exception of Woods, has 3 to 5 different levels. So students can advance quite far in those subject areas. The Woods class is being restructured a little bit for next year. So it's going to focus more on Woods plus other materials that students can build with. So they're getting exposure to just more materials in that industry. And also students will have the opportunity to also design their own blueprints and get more creative in that area than they have been able to previously. So a good option for students who are interested in that area.
This is the science flow chart for courses. Although there is only the 3-year requirement, students will take more than the 3-year requirement, depending on what their interests are, as well as potentially what they're going to study beyond high school. Generally, it's the biology, chemistry, and then physics or environmental. If they were a student that took the biology in their 8th grade year, that doesn't negate their 3-year requirement at the high school level, they would take an additional science. If it was biochem and then they took physics, they may look to take AP Physics. If they took Physics 1, they may look to take the AP Physics 1 in their senior year. In deciding whether or not to take the physics or the environmental is also based on a conversation with the chemistry teacher from the prior year, as well as, like I said, the interest of the student. Here's a list of some really great science electives. A bunch of them do happen to be the AP level. The anatomy, physiology is an honors level, also carries weight. Some of the unweighted electives are listed below that. Forensic science, sports medicine 1 and 2, bio for allied health is a great course for students that are intending on pursuing a career in the medical sciences, as well as biotechnology.
So the following art electives, Intro to Visual Arts is the one that students would need to take before taking anything else. So if they've taken that, they're able to move on to the next class in the sequence. Students, if they're interested in art, are really able to advance quite far in this area. But when we get to the AP classes, there are more requirements needed going into it. So if a student has gotten up to that level and is interested in going into those classes, their art teacher would have that conversation with them about what that would entail going into that. The music electives as well. So we have a really strong music program. We have the choir electives. We also have the band focused electives. So for chamber choir, if students are interested in that, there is, I believe, an audition process. So the teacher would let us know, would let the counselors know which students are accepted into that class as we move through the spring this year. So that's an option. There is also chorus that any student could take if they're interested in that area. And then of course we have the more band focused classes like we mentioned. And then the classes that you see on the right-hand side are more like traditional classroom style classes, but again, focused in the music area. Family and consumer science classes. So we have, again, quite a few classes where there is that sequence that students can move through. So once they take that first level of the elective, if they're interested in continuing, they really are able to advance quite far in those areas. So if a student feels that they might be interested in one of these subject areas in the future, this is a really good area for them to start getting into now so that they can have that experience moving into college or a career after high school. Interior decorating is the only one where there's one level, but that class is open to all grade levels, so any student can take that if they're interested. Oh, for child development, actually, there is an application. So students who are interested in that subject would let us know, and then there is a form that they would fill out where it would just be applying to the program. The teacher reviews them and then would determine if the student is accepted into the program. So just something to know with that. But again, if a student is interested, we wouldn't want to deter them. They should just let us know that they are wanting to do that and we'll send them the application.
So the dual enrollment program has been growing every year, and it is a tremendous benefit for our students to have the opportunity to take coursework at Wayne Valley and earn credit at the institutions that that certify our programs. So what that means is we obtain dual enrollment accreditation through the schools that are listed in the courses that are listed for each of these schools. The student takes that course at Wayne Valley, does not have to go anywhere else. Within the content of the class, the teacher will offer them the opportunity to fill out the dual enrollment application, which is through that university. After paying the application fee, the student will earn credits through that course based upon successful completion of the course and an appropriate grade. Does the student need to attend that college to obtain that credit? The answer is no. What they would do is, let's say they obtain dual enrollment credits through FDU, Seton Hall, whatever. After graduating from Wayne Valley, they would request a transcript, an official transcript from that college to be sent to the colleges they are attending. The colleges that they are attending will receive that transcript and make a determination through a transfer credit evaluation process, which we have no part in. It is somewhat of a gamble because there's no guarantee that they're going to receive that credit at the school that they are attending. But consider the risk of spending. The application fees for every school is slightly different, but I know that they're around 150, I think upwards of $200 to $250 for the application to earn those 3 credits. Whereas taking that full semester course at any of those institutions, the community colleges obviously would be cheaper. So you're looking at probably around $1,200 for a class, whereas at some of the other schools, you're looking at a few $1,000s, upwards of $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for one course. And they're paying the application fee, which is around, like I said, anywhere from 150, possibly up to 250. So it absolutely is worth the opportunity because the change of majors rate is high. The transfer rate is still pretty high. So where they start may not be where they end, and those credits they're entitled to if they paid for them through that application. It continues to grow. It is a tremendous opportunity. We have students that leave Wayne Valley with 6, 9, sometimes 12, and sometimes upwards of 15 credits leaving high school. So it is an absolute great opportunity to earn those credits prior to leaving here and potentially cutting into that student debt they may acquire beyond high school. There are senior options as well. These obviously are only open to our seniors. These programs entitle these students to leave the school early. Through the work-based learning, it's a 20 credit program where there is a course in the morning, as long as they fulfilled all of their elective requirements. Their senior year requirements are the only 4-year requirements are PE, health, and English. If they have the numeric credits as well as the content areas that they need fulfilled, they can be part of these programs. It gives them the opportunity to leave before the day ends. For the work-based learning, they would be attending a job. If they already have a job, the coordinator of the program can work with them in establishing that as an appropriate site. If they do not have a job, our coordinator, who is Mr. Ferrari, he can help students to find a job. The senior internships is also another great opportunity. 5, 10, or 15 credit option based on student need, as well as the placement or where they're looking to have an internship. We have some connections to find internship placements, but quite often students have either, say, a family friend or there's a local practice for, let's say, a doctor's office or a bank or an advertising agency, and a student wants to get into that as a career path, that is an option. There are time requirements, so they're earning credits, but there also is a requirement of how many hours they accrue working as part of an internship program or through the auto program, which is also an employment opportunity. So this question comes up quite often, and I absolutely want to address it. If a student is part of a senior option, are they necessarily not a college-bound student? Absolutely not true. I have plenty of students that are college-bound, and they choose this as an option because they're taking electives, or they don't want to take electives that are not in any way, shape connected to a plan. And this affords them the opportunity to leave early, to earn money, to start working, gain some experience within the workforce, still with a plan potentially for going to college afterward or any kind of post-secondary education.
So these are the pathways we usually use to communicate the most. So Blackboard for emails, of course. Remind, so these are the class codes for the students to join. We also presented this to students when we spoke with them with the same presentation, so they had the opportunity to join at that point. That's when we kind of just send out blasts about what's going on that day or that week for students to be aware of. And then our Instagram account as well, so we will post information about events and activities that we have coming up as well on there.
The remind is not for parents, just FYI. The remind is for students only. Blackboard is our main way of communication, as Mrs. Feinberg said. If you have any questions, if you're unsure if we have the appropriate email address on file to communicate with parents, please be sure to contact the school counseling office, and we'll make sure that we have all the appropriate contact information. We do send out, like Mrs. Feinberg said, we do send out a lot through these platforms. The Remind system is great because we have the opportunity to connect with students throughout the day on a secure platform, so that if we make an announcement to call them down for scheduling or anything like that, they get a message directly to their phone because they have the Remind app on their phones. So it is a great way for us to connect and to achieve whatever we're looking at to work through. So this is also the last slide, and part of our presentation with students. We offer them the opportunity to sit with us, and as soon as we finish our presentation, which we've wrapped up already, and go through the alternative, them selecting their electives.
So at this point, like Mr. Paul said, we are concluded with the information portion. If we have if we have questions, we're going to be addressing them now, but if you don't have any questions, you are free to go. If you think of questions afterwards, of course, you are always more than welcome to reach out to your child's counselor. If you're unsure of who their counselor is, you can always call the counseling office main line and we'll be able to direct you from there. But thank you so much to everybody who attended. And again, if you have questions at this point, you're welcome to stay on. But if not, again, thank you, and we hope you have a good rest of the day.
Just to reiterate, if you know someone that was unable to attend, we will, this session has been recorded and we will be providing it to parents.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I have a junior, going to be a senior next year, and we were going through, like, her schedule. So she has not taken an AP class. She is in enriched classes.
Okay.
So my question, I guess, is is taking one AP, even just one AP class, look good on a college, for the college transcript type of?
Definitely. Part of the evaluation and the letter recommendation process for counselors, we have to indicate in the materials that we send out to colleges, the academic rigor of coursework that students have taken. If they've taken at least one AP, it certainly will bode well for our response in how rigorous their coursework has been. It is a Likert scale style response, so we indicate below average, average, demanding, somewhat demanding, very demanding, and most demanding coursework available to them. So we do make indications within the documents that we send out what type of courses they're taking. If you want to find out or have a better sense of whether or not an AP level course is appropriate for your child, the conversation in the content area of a course that a student may be interested in, and say it's history. If they're headed into their senior year, they want to take an AP history course, having conversation with their U.S. History 2 teacher, as well as we'll even set up quick 5-minute meetings with students and teachers that currently teach an AP course they may be interested in. We can connect those. During lunch block is our best opportunity. We'll say, I have a student who wants to know about AP American government and politics. Do you have 5 minutes on Wednesday to meet with them during lunch block? They can ask you a couple questions. Teachers more than happy to do that. They want to promote their coursework, their classes that they're teaching, entice students to explore areas. So we're more than happy in connecting all those dots so students feel comfortable about making a decision. So if they are taking enriched level courses, it's absolutely a great opportunity for them to start looking to take advanced, because if they score well on the AP exam, which is the intention of them taking AP level courses, is to sit for the AP exam. That's all practice. It's all opportunity for them to sit for a long form test, to take an advanced class. I mean, potentially if college bound or any post-secondary educational program is in their future, it's good to start to expose them to being in those environments.
Okay, great. So I guess my next question is, when she goes to see her counselor, is that when, because she is struggling on which AP class to take.
Okay.
So you just said so when or should she reach out to her counselor now and be like, listen, these are the, whatever, 3 I'm thinking of taking, and then they might reach out to those teachers who teach it, and then I guess let her make a decision, or they could all make an educated decision, what's the best way to go. Is that?
Yeah, if she wants to start reaching out now, like if she's interested in talking to the teachers and setting up time for that, she could start reaching out to her counselor now to see if she would be able to set up times with those teachers. Or if it's more of just a matter of she wants to just think it over and has not quite made a decision yet. She could ask her counselor, or she could just kind of give it some thought, and then when she meets with her counselor in the coming months to start that scheduling process, she can always mention, like, these are the classes that I was thinking about based on my grades previously, like what might you recommend? So that's an
Okay.
option as well.
Great. Because, well, there's other classes, because here's my other question, dual enrollment. So there's that you guys have changed a couple of things, which is great, because she's into TV and film and all that, and now you have dual enrollment for those classes, which is what she wants to go to in college. So that was my, like, is one AP class enough, or do I have to take away one of the dual enrollments for her to do another AP class? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Right. So if she's doing classes that are directly related to what she wants to do in the future, then those classes are still going to be beneficial. So if a student is looking into a specific program in college afterwards, like a TV specific program, just in this example, and they are taking TV 1 through 4 in high school, that's going to look very good applying to a TV program in college to have that experience, especially because as they do get higher up in those levels of the specific content, they're going to be doing more work that is closely related to what they would be doing in the field. So they would be able to have all that experience going into college or into a job after high school. So it's a toss-up if a student's going to potentially get rid of, say, TV4, but they want to go into a TV program in college, but they're looking at getting rid of TV4 in favor of doing like AP government. We would have to weigh out the pros and cons. Like, yes, it would look good to have an AP class, but it's an AP class that would have nothing to do with what it is that they want to do in college. So depending on the specific circumstances for each student and depending on what it is that they're looking into, we would go over the pros and cons of each of those options.
I think one of
Okay,
the things that sort of gets in the way is making that best judgment about which of those classes to take. We're operating on general guidance. So if there are specific requirements at certain schools, it's kind of hard in that pre-planning phase of figuring out specifically which colleges would want to see, say, the AP course or the 4th year of TV. We give our best guidance with regard to a general approach to the post-secondary planning. But the recommendations that I have for students that have some very specific question and sometimes are already starting to really actively plan as they head towards the end of their junior year, call the college, call Office of Undergraduate Admissions, ask to speak to an admissions counselor. They'll tell you specifically. They don't give us very specific information because they all operate independently and they all have their own internal process. So we do promote, obviously, students to taking advanced coursework. Some colleges will say we like to see the multiple years and a student take coursework that really focuses in on one area, and other schools will look to see more broad-based, where they're taking a general course offering that may be higher level, may be more competitive. As an example, the current statistics are 75% of students at the college level will change their major 2 to 3 times. So it sounds like a crazy number, but you also have to understand being in a new environment, being around other students that want to be there, they create this environment where students are starting to become energized and excited about courses and content. But the adolescent brain is 7 years to 10 years away from finally being built. So it's not unusual that students change their mind when they get there. As well planned out as every student can be, things change. So they may show up with a very clear vision about what they want to do, and within their first semester, first year, may change their major to a completely different area. So those are all great individual things to explore, and certainly conversations that we'd absolutely love to have with parents, with students. The whole planning is definitely a big part of our job.
Okay, thank you so much. I really
Of course.
appreciate it.
Of course. I think we have another.
Hi, Mr. Paul, Sharon West.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, great presentation. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Very informative. Have all my notes written down here. How do we go about setting up a meeting to meet with you and our students about the planning and the next steps?
So every single counselor is going to be sending out in some way, shape, or form a correspondence to their students targeted to invite them to sign up for a meeting.
Okay.
So some counselors will send out like a Google Doc. Some will send out a sign-up sheet for students to set up a meeting with us, hopefully during the lunch block, or during a study hall, or a period where they know they either have completed their work or they're not going to be working on something that's that they can't miss.
Right.
And if parents want to be involved, we're more than happy to set up a Zoom meeting so that we can have the parents join us on Zoom when the student comes down for their meeting. If students want to come in person, we're happy to do that as well. Whatever way we can support so that we have a plan and that we're all planning together. So as I mentioned to Dean, definitely keep an eye out, because we're going to be sending them out. Teachers have not yet put in their core course leveling recommendations. So once teachers put in their recommendations, students have already, or hopefully to this point, have put in their elective requests. The teacher leveling recommendations will be in hopefully within about a week and a half. And then counselors will start to meet with their students. They come down, we look at what their requests are, as well as what the leveling recommendations are. We complete what that schedule looks like. We input the entire course load for that student. That goes in as a request. So we didn't mention in the beginning of the presentation, but I definitely want to at least mention it now, is we say request because with the leveling recommendations and the course requests in place, it's an automated process. It's not someone sitting there hand scheduling everybody. So it's a computer algorithm that we hit a button and the scheduler creates the schedule based on availability, based on grade level appropriateness, how the courses align within the day, how the half years align. So this is something that we start now and we work on all the way literally into the first month of school the following year. So as best we can plan, that's absolutely why we ask students to put in alternatives, because we cannot guarantee that, let's say a student wants to take French 4, AP Human Geo, and Sports Med, and there's only enough requests from students to run one, maybe 2 sections of those classes, and those classes conflict. We request that they have other electives, alternatives in place, because the function of the schedule or the master schedule is not something we have control over when they come into that position where, and there may be a small handful of students that are looking to take French 4, Sports Med, and AP Human Geo or whatever, and they are all in that same position where they have to choose other coursework because it just doesn't align with how the schedule sets up. But back to your original point, when that initial invitation goes out for students to sign up for a scheduling meeting, then we just coordinate with parents if they want to be part of that.
Okay, great. The algorithm and the scheduler, does that account for seniors who, may need to have precedence, or is that not part of the algorithm?
Well, it's probably more based on prerequisite and level appropriateness, because there are courses that seniors cannot take because they are undergraduate level, or not graduate, they're underclassmen level. So like Intro to Visual Arts, Foods 1, CAD 1, TV 1, all those first year courses, students are not allowed to take. So
Right.
we don't really run into the problem as far as there being a need to prioritize seniors.
Mhm.
But we look at everything case by case. So we do what we can to make the schedule work for the entire building, which is why
Okay.
it takes 7-8 months.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know it's an involved process. Thank you.
Of course. All right, so we're gonna wrap up. If, like I said, anybody has any questions, concerns, wants to be part of their scheduling meeting with their child, we are more than happy to set all that up. Please feel free to contact your child's counselor. If you're unaware of who that person is, we can absolutely put you in touch with your child's counselor if you just call the main guidance number. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have